The House Foreign Affairs Committee holding a hearing on a potential military strike in Syria this morning as President Obama continues to press for congressional support.
First of all, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red line. The world set a red line when governments representing 98% of the world's population said the use of chemical weapons are abhorrent.
This as Russian President Vladimir Putin continues to throw his weight against a U.S. strike without UN support and more definitive proof that the Assad regime was behind the August chemical attacks. It is Wednesday, September 4th. Welcome to Lunch Break. I'm Wendy Bounds. Joining me now is Wall Street Journal reporter Colleen McCain Nelson, who has been covering this issue with our team in Washington, D.C. Colleen, thanks for being here. A lot of support from some key leaders in Congress, John Boehner, Eric Cantor, Nancy Pelosi on both sides of the aisle, building behind President Obama's call for punitive action against Syria. Is it enough? Is this going to get the rest of Congress behind him?
Well, it's not necessarily enough at this moment. Yesterday was definitely a good day from Obama in that he gained some momentum. He had this meeting at the White House, and a lot of key leaders emerged from the meeting saying they were convinced and they were ready to support his call for action. But unlike in the past, these leaders can't necessarily bring their parties along with them in lockstep. And they indicated as much. They said, that they weren't necessarily going to be the ones to whip votes and pressure lawmakers, that they expected the White House to build support and bring people on board, make the case. And so the White House still has work to do to get a lot of people on board. And it's interesting because this doesn't cut along normal party lines. There are people who want more action, more aggressive action. There are people who want less action, and there's opposition scattered within both parties.
So let's take a listen. Earlier we were hearing some of these key conversations going on. Let's take a listen to that.
It's important for us to get out of the habit of just saying, well, we'll let the president kind of stretch the boundaries of his authority as far as he can. Congress will sit on the sidelines, snipe. If it works, the sniping will be a little less. If it doesn't, a little more. But either way, the American people and their representatives are not fully invested in what are tough choices.
And that was President Obama speaking just hours ago in Sweden. Colleen, we wonder how much the president and members of Congress will be listening to what the rest of the world is saying. President Putin in Russia being very firm, saying, he does not think the U.S. should go ahead without some sort of UN resolution behind a military strike, even comparing it to the war in Iraq, saying the evidence isn't there yet to justify such a strike. How much are they listening?
Well, Obama made pretty clear this morning that he's not listening to Putin on this. He said that, Putin has put up roadblocks at every turn in terms of dealing with Syria. He said that even when he's gone to the UN Security Council with requesting modest action, that Russia has presented impediments and that Russia has not been willing to acknowledge the behavior of the Assad regime. And so, Obama's making the argument that Russia has been a friend to Syria, is not a friend to the United States on this matter, and that Russia is going to continue to be a hindrance at the United Nations and is just going to make that a very difficult road to hoe.
One thing you hear people talking about on the streets when they're discussing this, obviously people find chemical warfare abhorrent, but people say, well, why would the U.S. not wait for the UN to present all of its findings? Why would they not wait for a UN resolution, Colleen?
Right, and that's a good question. The White House has said that they have compelling evidence, that they are convinced that they have evidence from numerous sources, both observations and intercepted intelligence, that convince them that Assad used chemical weapons against his people. And they say that they need to move forward so that this doesn't continue to happen. And so they say they have the evidence they need in hand. They appreciate the work of the UN inspectors, but they're not sure that they need any more evidence to convince them what they think they already know. And they made that case to lawmakers at the meeting at the White House yesterday, and several of them emerged saying that it was very compelling evidence and that they were convinced after hearing the White House case.
All right, well, the White House will continue to press its case, doing so right now. The House Foreign Affairs Committee holding a hearing. We'll continue to cover that, as well as all the developments of this story with you and your team. Colleen, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.